Well, thank you. Well, CP, good afternoon. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have a chance to have this conversation with you about leadership lessons and how to navigate the storm that we have been in the last 15 odd months now. CP, if I can start by asking you a more broad question. As you reflect back on the COVID storm, and we have now been through wave 1 and a very strong wave 2, and the future remains still uncertain, what are some of the most important leadership traits in your mind that our leaders need to possess to navigate this ongoing storm successfully? CP, you're on mute. You're on mute, CP, I think.
Thank you, Kavya, for setting up this meeting. Gautam, good afternoon, and lovely chatting up with you. You know, coming in from the managing director of McKinsey India about leadership traits, I need to be a little careful. Clearly, onslaught of this pandemic, the veil of darkness, pretty much obscuring any normal vision. And the worst mistake anybody could do was to watch TV. Because it was almost like nobody had good news, everybody had bad news. And I guess, that is a time when I reflected back on the leadership that Tech Mahindra provided during the Satyam days. I looked back and looked at probably trying to find a playbook which was most appropriate. And but one moment the coin dropped, because I remembered a story, I remembered an experience where when an aircraft was very turbulent, almost every passenger on the aircraft was praying or worried. There was this child who had the Zen Buddha kind of a look on her face. And when somebody asked her, why were you not concerned? Why were you not worried? Her reply was, I always knew we will land safely because my father was the pilot. Now, to me, it was a wonderful leadership lesson. And the moment the story dropped, I knew that there were two leadership traits that we had to pick up. One was being a wartime general or become a peacetime general. It was clearly a war. Hundreds of countries waging war against the unknown virus. Most of us were only trying to figure out what the cure would be, what the vaccine would be, and what is it that you would do. So the two things that were very clear is that a wartime general is a guy who is agile, who is flexible, who is communicating, and who is taking all the data points and taking decisions based on continuous monitoring of the parameters. I think that's what me and my management team did. We looked at every potential permutation and combination, which had clearly three partners, which is my customer, my employees, and number third is what I would call a partnership with a transparent and an open communication. So now looking back, not that the war is over, but I think we took the right decision. The business has grown, the customers are happier, and employees, we are still constantly communicating, and our employees are still our partner. It doesn't matter whether it is wave 2 or we getting ready for the wave 3.
Thank you. Well, thank you, CP, for reminding us, by the way, that leadership is actually context specific. And to your point, wartime leadership is not the same as peacetime leadership, and we've been in a war. If we think about the last year, and you think about you as the general leading in this wartime, what have been your highs and lows? And can you share some examples of what those highs were like and what the lows have been like?
So let me go, Gautam, a little philosophical. To me, and we talk about Mahindra Rise tenets. And Mahindra Rise tenets, one of the most important tenets is being positive. Now, clearly, a tenet on the wall and practicing it when you have certain situations, you have certain people that you lose, but you remember positivity is like a boomerang. And as a leader, I and my team ensure that we throw the positive energy to everyone around us, because that is what got reflected back in a positive energy by my employees. So to me, the most positive part is being able to celebrate the moment, being able to rejoice with your clients, being able to work with the government and getting the regulator permissions. The lows, one is, as I've already told you, we did lose a few of our employees. A few of our employees lost their dear ones. And that clearly hurt us, because when an average age of the company is 29 years, please believe me, everyone who departed checked out a little too early. The lows were, in a way, we converted our lows into what I would call crisis is equal to opportunity. For example, we realized a lot of individuals were singles, and particularly in North India, the singles were being thrown out of their tenanted accommodations because the landlords were just getting paranoid about the virus sneaking through any door or any open window. Now, I could have fought back, but I said no. We basically, as a leadership, opened up our houses. We invited those singles to come and stay with us so that we showed to our own employees that we are a family. So yes, it was a crisis one day, but second day it became an opportunity. And Gautam, to be very honest, this is a time you also realize how gifted, how privileged, how lucky we are, because many of our employees were commuting 2 hours. Most of our employees at times did not have a laptop or a desk to work from or an independent space to work from. Obviously, we rented the hotels nearby. We did everything to correct the situation. But I can only tell you that is the time the lows are, the disparity in the society.
No, thank you. Thank you, CP, for sharing that. By the way, one of the things you said that is one of the roles of leaders is to actually give energy. And, your point about positivity and radiating that like a boomerang, I think is very, very important one. CP, as we think about the future, every CEO has to confront choices as you navigate this kind of crisis. And we know from previous crises that the companies that make decisive choices and make bold moves while in the crisis are the ones that eventually stand out and get ahead of the curve. How have you been thinking at Tech Mahindra about some of the choices, some of the defensive and offensive moves, and some of the bold choices? How have you and the management team been debating some of those choices?
So internally, we have this word that we very commonly use, which is brick and click. Physical and digital marrying together. I guess that has really come to stay. That Gautam, Kumra and CP will meet more virtually than physically and be equally effective. That our businesses, whether they are, OTT platforms where we are consuming content, or we are in a physical movie theater, it doesn't matter whether it is called PVR or whether it is called anything else. All I was trying to make a point here is that physical and digital are here to coexist. The ratios may change depending on the business, but I am convinced that this is where the opportunity for Tech Mahindra is. Luckily, Tech Mahindra is very heavily invested in telecom. We believe as the 5G grows, the physical and digital will only become more connected, more available, and hence for us to bring in solutions, I think will only make it a lot more easier as long as we can continue to focus on not only the healthcare, education, and banking, not only as digital marketplaces, but we start looking and keep thinking about new and newer applications. That 5G connectivity will open up. I think Tech Mahindra will be in the right place. And I personally also strongly believe that for the youth of today, for the employees of today, or even for people who are my age and some of your age, if they realize that the world is going to become physical and digital, if they reskill themselves, they will remain relevant. And if they want to stay ahead, they will have to visualize a future where they need to position themselves for physical and digital.
No, thank you, CP. One of the things I'm sure every CEO in today's time, I was talking to, by the way, a leading bank CEO this morning only. And he was talking about, we were talking about many opportunities, but he said, I just need to make sure I don't make any big mistakes because the tailwinds are strong. So before I even get to the offensive, I have to just make sure defensively I don't score any self-inflicted goals. My technology should work, cyber shouldn't kill me, my data shouldn't leak. So I was just thinking, when you sit as Tech Mahindra CEO, how do you think about that? Are there any risks or headwinds that you have to also manage, or is it largely go offense on many of the opportunities you talked about?
Again, the analogy that we started with, wartime general, it doesn't mean it is all offense. A wartime also means defense. So I do want to reassure that most leaders that I have come across do not have a risk management committee, which is only ornamental. They actually spend time on what the risks to the business are and what they need to do to at least be aware of the risk, be able to navigate those risks, and if possible, find an opportunity when the other people are only looking at risks. Many of us as leaders are also conscious that every time there is a business corpse, it is always because either they fired too early or they fired in the wrong direction. So I think from our Tech Mahindra's point of view, clearly our risks are being ahead of ourselves, particularly in technology. So let's take an example. Many leaders in the world have predicted quantum computing. Now, I could be betting the ranch and saying that the future is quantum computing. Like an AWS bet the ranch and said future is cloud computing. But there was at the same time when AWS was betting cloud, there are companies which betted only on blockchain. If you notice, blockchain is niche, cloud has become universal. So there will clearly be choices that one has to make, but I hope good judgment prevails, and I hope we do fail, because if we are not failing, then we are not doing enough. So I do want us to take a few chances, fail a few times, but hopefully we also know how not to fail fatally. So I can only tell you that Tech Mahindra will be on the offense, but will not let the defense go.
A good point, by the way, about failing and learning. In fact, I was talking to somebody at Amazon, and they were saying one of the major questions they often ask each other is the number of experiments you're running in the organization. And they, in fact, push you. If you're not running enough, then you're not pushing the boundaries enough. So that's an important point. The CP1, I want to shift gears and talk about talent. This COVID crisis has also caused a lot of rethink. I think I was talking to an academic who feels that there's going to be major dislocation in the job market. People are going to shift jobs. People are rethinking how they want to lead their lives, what role work will play in their lives. And we'll see how it shifts, but at least one view is that there will be dislocation, and as the new economy emerges, there'll be even a higher war for some of the high potential talent. How do you see it? What are you feeling, sensing? Are you seeing it? Do you think the talent market, how will it shift as a result of this crisis?
Gautam, war for talent is not new. Right from the days of Napoleon, when he became a wartime general at 27, I just love this wartime general thing. So when he became a wartime general at the age of 27, trust me, his biggest challenge, even in those days, was talent. So I do know that there will be shifts, but they would not be seismic shifts. And particularly the reason is that the new glue of the world is technology. And that glue allows us to have a talent in Ukraine working seamlessly with me for a project in Singapore or a project in Australia. So I think the platforms, the tools, and the technology are now working together almost like a symphony, almost like an orchestra. So the disruption that we, or the professor friend of yours, is visualizing, I think all you need to bring in the glue, the technology, and you will realize that while there will be temporary situations, but the moment you open up your canvas, there is a lot more opportunities.
Thank you. CP, with that, let me get to the last question. I think everybody's wondering what the future is going to be like. I think when will normalcy return? When will we be able to do some of the things we've all been used to doing? And I'm sure there are going to be many different hybrid models that will emerge. What is your sense when you look at both your customers, how they are responding, and when you look at Tech Mahindra, what do you think, how will companies come back, if I can use that word, come back to work once this period is over? And what is your vision of the future of how people will go about doing their work? And are there some practices from now that you think will sustain, while others that will go away?
So, Gautam, good question. And I know this crystal ball gazing, you guys get paid for it, and I'm the one who is being asked this question. So first thing is, if I visualize myself as a lag industry, because somebody else develops a product, somebody else chooses to create an industry 4.0, and I go and implement it, then I know the role is very easy. US has started opening up. My business guys, my delivery teams, my technology team has started traveling. Now, but it doesn't mean that everything is normal. Their clients, particularly the West Coast clients, have said, we will not have face-to-face meetings till February of 2022. And there are clients in East Coast who are having lunches and dinners together right now. Europe is waking up, but Sweden, Norway, Switzerland is having meetings. So my only submission out here is that some of us do believe that the models will evolve, models will change, but human beings are very, very resilient, and their need for whiteboarding in an office, their need for building relationship and trust to do business are human instincts which will not go away. So if you were to ask me, if the vaccinations succeed as they are supposed to succeed, then same time in June 2022, we will have the same conference with ET, but in that point of time, the Kavya, Gautam and CP would probably be in the same room, and we would not be sitting in 3 virtual rooms.
Thank you, CP. I think in the short 18, 19 minutes, we've covered quite a few things. I'm taking away a bunch of messages. I think your point about wartime and peacetime leadership, your point about the role of positivity in spreading positivity as leaders, your point about physical and digital, and the big revolution that is occurring around the cusp of 5G and what that will lead, and the big opportunity in using technology to bind people. And finally, I look forward to hopefully having lunch or dinner one of these days, CP, with you and Kavya, and not just being on the screen. But with that, let me say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, and let me hand this back over to Kavya and the team. Thank you, CP.
Thank you.